Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have gathered here in order to discuss a very important question, which is what is the importance of context when studying leadership in organizations? And in order for us to answer this question, I've assigned each of you to answer a specific question that will answer the big question. So, Lacey is a minute taker, am I right? And Lacey's going to start with how are organizational culture and leadership styles related? Go ahead, please.
So, firstly, in a business, a leadership style is usually named transformational leadership. It's often the most effective approach to use, but whilst at the same time we have to consider organisational culture, which is the behaviour of humans who are a part of an organisation and the meanings that these people attach to their actions. So the four main types of leadership styles are autocratic, bureaucratic, charismatic and democratic. Many commentators say that the performance of an organisation is dependent on the conscious alignment of employee values with the embraced values of company strategy. This indicates that organisational culture and leadership are actually linked. So based on the article, the theorist Bass 1985 demonstrates the relationship between leadership and culture by examining the impact of different styles and leadership on culture. He argues that transactional leaders tend to operate within the confines and limits of the existing culture, whilst transformational leaders frequently work towards changing the organisational culture in line with their visions. So organisational culture affects the way that people and groups interact with each other, with clients and with their stakeholders. And it is clear that good leaders need to develop these skills that enable them to alter aspects of the culture in order to improve their organisational performance overall.
Thank you very much. That's very good. Can we please now move to Edmund with what is the relationship between the leadership performance and culture?
Yeah. First of all, to understand the relationship between leadership style and subordinate performance, it's very important to understand the context in which organization is. And so it's appeal to us to study, to understand organization culture. And in organization, we've got different kind of culture. That can be innovative culture, that can be competitive culture, bureaucratic culture, or community culture. And according to the type of culture we got, then that will suggest the leader to undertake another leadership style. That could be participative culture, a supportive culture, or instrumental culture. So it's important that one cannot, see the relationship between leadership style and the performance without studying the context. That is very important. That is the mediation of between both. Yeah, absolutely. So the context is very paramount important into understanding what type of leadership style the leader should undertake to influence, subordinate, to be productive, and then to be performance in the job. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So depending on what Edmund has said, Gerard, how does the culture within organizations impact performance? To which extent?
Right. I'll start off by defining organizational culture. It is basically the behavior of humans who are part of an organization, that the meanings that the people attach to their actions. It could be their values, visions, norms, working language, systems, symbols, beliefs, or even habits. One of the major reasons for the widespread popularity of and interest in organizational culture stems from an argument or assumption that a certain organizational culture can lead to a superior organizational financial performance. Many academics and practitioners argues that the performance of an organization is dependent on the degree to which the values of the culture are widely shared, which gives them a strong image. going back to a bit of history, by 1990s, researchers assessing the links between culture and performance were more cautious. So, for example, Gordon and Di Tommaso and Dennison both propose that there is a link between certain organizational culture characteristics and performance, but each add a number of conditions. For instance, they note that culture will remain linked with superior performance only if culture is able to adapt to changes in environmental conditions. Additionally, the culture must not only be strong, but it must also have unique qualities which cannot be imitated. However, more recently, it has been suggested that the relationship between culture and performance is very weak. The growing popularity of the resource-based view of competitive advantage suggests the degree to which a culture can be theorized to determine a sustainable advantage is dependent upon the value, rarity, imitability, sustainability of the culture. Just to summarize, it is basically that the literature of organizational culture is rich and diverse. Much of the richness is founded on the claim by many researchers that culture is linked to organizational performance, while some theorists have questioned the universality of a culture to performance link. Sufficient evidence exists to suggest that organizational culture is associated with organizational performance.
Thank you, Gerard. That was very interesting. So now we're going to move to a very essential leadership, which is cross-cultural leadership with Ayush, please. Would you please explain how it was developed and definition of the cross-cultural leadership as well?
Right, so I'm going to be talking about how cross-cultural leadership enhances the organizational performance. Cross-culture psychology attempts to understand how individuals of different cultures interact with each other, and it has developed as a way to understand leaders who work in the newly globalized market. In today's organizations, there are leaders who can adjust to different environments quickly and work with partners and colleagues of different cultural backgrounds, and it is important for the functioning of the companies globally. One of the main reasons for the creation of cross-cultural leadership is globalization and understanding of other cultures, which is a key thing to do. A lot of multinationals and companies that are going global these days are putting in a lot of money in research and development of other cultures, and they are trying to know what country they are merging what country they are merging in and their culture. There's a theory of Hofstede culture dimensions which discusses the similarities and dissimilarities amongst every culture. It includes individualism, collectivism, femininity, masculinity, power distance index, uncertainty avoidance, long-term and short-term orientation.
Thank you very much. So, Abla, how can managers or leaders enhance their cultural intelligence?
First of all, cultural intelligence can be understood as the capacity to relate and work effectively across cultures. According to the author, David Thomas and Cass Inkson, in order to survive in an increasingly globalized business environment, managers need to develop their level of cultural intelligence. So, cultural intelligence has three components which are linked in a various cycle. So first of all, it requires knowledge of cultures and fundamental principle of cross-cultural interaction that goes beyond etiquette. Secondly, the culturally intelligent managers need to practice mindfulness, that is the ability to pay attention in a reflective and creative way to cues in the cross-cultural situation they encounter. And finally, based on his knowledge of mindfulness, the culturally intelligent managers develops a repertoire of behavioral skills which they can draw upon depending on their reading of the situation. So I can say that leaders with a high cultural intelligence can effectively adapt their leadership style to fit multicultural situation involving customer, supplies, and associates from diverse backgrounds. According to David Livermore, who is an expert of cultural intelligence, there are 4 things that contribute to it. So there is drive, showing interest, confidence, and the drive to adapt across culturally. Knowledge, understanding intercultural issues and differences. Strategy, making sense of cultural diverse experience and planning accordingly. And the fourth one is action, changing verbal and non-verbal actions appropriately when interacting cross-culturally. So according to him, leaders need all these capabilities because focusing on one without the others can actually result in increased cultural ignorance rather than enhanced cultural intelligence. So you need to develop each of these to be culturally intelligent.
Thank you very much. So does any of you have any questions? Okay, I have one. So let's say you were a manager or a leader and you have moved to a new organization. Would you adapt to the organizational culture, or would you make your own culture and make sure the employees adapt with your new culture?
Wow. I
Yeah.
think it's
Is it
important
for
for
her
a
or-
leader, if
It's
they
for
are
all of us.
a good leader, it is important for that leader to adapt their style into that organisational culture rather than the organisation having to change it just for that leader. It's the leader's responsibility, I think, really, in an organisation to adapt the way that he works in order to...
That's a part of flexibility, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, please.
I think that there's like a standard of a work environment. There's like a work culture and there's a work ethic, which every company follows. Say if it's in Morocco, say if it's in America, say if it's in the UK, say if it's in the India. So I think there's like a genuine work culture, like being on time, being punctual, being ethically committed to your work. I think that every organization seeks, and I think the main objectives of the leaders are to see that. So I think it really depends on the
Yeah.
yeah.
exactly.
From my part, I would say that a leader that is being called to make a change in an organization should not only adapt, but should understand this environment and use the way, the kind of culture that we would want to implement this in this organization in order to, because you cannot just adapt to the organization if the culture, we've got the culture of people not working, lazy people. Leader cannot only adapt to this kind. Leader should try to transform, kind of understand this environment, trying to shape this environment in order to Yeah. So
But also respect their culture and
yeah, absolutely.
whatever they already had before
Yeah.
he came or she came
If
in.
if the leader came in an environment that is totally competitive environment, that is innovative environment, the leader can increase and
Yeah.
make it more innovative. But if the leader came in
With a
an
lazy
environment that
environment,
is lazy,
yeah.
obviously, you got to change this environment, make people more creative, more competitive and active. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So
Anything
yeah.
else? Anything else? Any other questions
think,
maybe? Yeah?
It just depends on the leader really and the job they do. Say if the leader has the passion in that certain business or in that certain industry, then obviously the culture that he can or she can change that company would be for the better.
Yeah.
And obviously that's the same for the opposite. Like if yes, you are a leader but you don't like what you do, you don't have the passion, then the least they could do for working for that company is to adapt to that culture and make it work for themselves, really. That makes sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Hope
that's
so. Yeah.
So how can multinationals then keep their image or their culture while moving to other countries? Because that will, like, they should adapt as well, but
I
they
think-
also need to keep their name.
I think they require a lot of patience when they do it, and they also, as I said, they need to invest. They are investing more into the research and their research and development tasks. And while they are going to the other countries, studying their culture, what it is like to set up a company in, say, for example, India, and what's like the work culture over there. We don't, like in India, we don't get Saturdays off. We work from Monday to Saturday. We probably work from 9 to 9, not 9 to 5. So they have more flexible hours. They have more hours of working. On the bright side, they can see that, but on the negatives, they can see that people are not punctual. Some people need sick leave. Some people need maternity leave or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not legal for a pregnant woman to work in India. Like, that's how it is.
Okay. Do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I would say it's all depends on objective that the companies set. If the company has set an objective of transforming, for example, coming in the case in going into an Indian company, and usually the leader cannot only come and forget about the Indian culture,
Yeah.
have to take in account, but the leader also want to keep a certain culture, the corporate culture,
Yeah.
and we'll make sure that employees from India will understand this culture. So it's a
Yeah.
kind of mix with, you shape the culture of the corporate and the culture of India, you mix it both and you create
Your own
yeah.
culture.
culture of what you want now. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I guess multinational, they send expatriates. They don't hire, you got in top management, they don't take people from the local company, from the country. They take from the home country. So, and by taking these people, they are able to drive the culture of the organization, whatever, and whatever the country. And that's about fitting with, you fit with culture. You take one culture, you mix it with culture, and you always, view your objective. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So do you guys think organizational culture is a vital element for the success of a company?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How come?
Yeah, that's what we keep saying. You gotta understand first of all the culture in which
Yeah.
it's still innovative, bureaucratic, and whatever, and then you, based on this, what kind of leadership you should undertake.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. The context is very. The context is absolutely.
It was shapes the organizational.
Yeah.
So does anyone want to add anything? Any questions? Any curiosity maybe?
Like what he said about India as well, like and the culture. if I remember it correctly, back in first year, one of the lecturers has mentioned that the McDonald's in India, like, they don't do burgers, obviously. They have wraps or something.
No, they don't do meat.
They don't do meat. Well, okay.
Yeah, like they don't do pork or beef either.
So they don't do the actual burgers.
Yeah, they
use something else.
Wraps.
Yeah,
instead,
they have wraps instead. But obviously, McDonald's is known for fast food, and they have to translate that culture to a culture that doesn't eat that kind of food. So yeah, which is difficult, obviously, for McDonald's, but it works.
Yeah,
Considering how successful McDonald's is in India.
Actually, for McDonald's, they've got this kind of the global. They've got a global culture and a local culture, and they mix both.
The adaptation
and
strength.
I think like organizational culture has like a standard now, because if
But
you see,
you also have to compromise a bit in order for you to be successful in other countries. You
Yeah, but
cannot be
like-
exactly the same in your home country.
no, but my point is, they're already MNCs merging in, say, India, so they know what to expect. They know the kind of employees they are going to hire, and the employees also know what they want out of them, so they have to be they have to be prepared for it. And they know the standard of like working in a proper Indian company, like in a very traditional Indian company, and working in a proper MNC or an international company. So I think there's a standard, and that standard has been established because obviously people want to work for MNCs, people want to make good salaries, people want to make like a lot of money. So they're bound to know the culture, and they're bound to know the organizational, the standard or the international standard of the organizational culture.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we have a collective answer for our big question then, which is what is the importance of context when studying leadership in an organization? And the answer is a lot important. Thank you very much for participating, and thank you for being here. And we'll see you after the holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bye.
Bye.
Oops.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
You just
no.